I think that's an interesting part also of self-discovery, right? When we're young, we're very much thinking within the me. And a lot of the things that I did, like I taught myself design at 13, for example. I was just like, oh yeah, I like this, right? And I taught myself digital marketing at 17 to be an influencer because I wanted to be a little bit famous, right? So it's a lot of it is like centered a little bit from ego. And the hackathon was, in a way, a good instrument for a mental shift because as part of the hackathon, I had to think about what to build for other people. And I think walking out of that, I started to think more about what are my unique talents and how can they benefit society. And I think that's how we find more of our strengths. It reminds me a little bit of like the Japanese like ikigai concept, like what makes me money, what am I like good at, and so on. But I do feel like that is a very good concept because I felt with what I can build as a product manager, as a startup founder, as a mentor, and so on. It is just tapping into the strengths that I have to build something from an empathetic viewpoint that benefits individuals, companies, society, and so on. Like it depends a little bit on what I'm working on, right? With Video Besuch, it was very much focused on reconnecting families. And then I built other tools that helped make people's workday easier, right? Through like productivity tools, very different focus. But in all of these situations, it's really more about empathizing with other people and understanding what they need and what their problems are, and then using my skill set and my problem solving skills to find the right solution for that. And I think in a sense, you're right to point out that the hackathon was probably the key shifting point that I had in thinking, because the first product that I built, I did very much build it to a degree as a solution to my own problem. But the second product I built was around other people's problems. And ever since, I've been more focused on that.
And how that shift you inside of you?
Sorry?
How does that shifting having the feeling inside of you?
I think it's just a step towards, like, it was a step towards maturity to a degree, right? The hackathon was one thing, but overall there were just several steps over my journey where I started to adopt more this sort of thinking, where I started to look more inside and try to keep the ego out of the equation. Because I think a lot of things, and based on a lot of people that I talk to, that we want in life, a lot of those are things that we think we have to want, or status symbols and so on. It's not what we might actually want or be content with, right? And at the same time, over a longer period of time, like this is basically what my early 20s were like, there was a lot of self-discovery and identity crisis connected to that self-discovery, in finding out what it is that I truly want and how I can truly contribute. I do think that that's a lifelong journey because things always change, right? We oftentimes think, or at least that's what I noticed, that it's a cultural thing also, to be fair. Oftentimes success is only considered success when it's in perpetuity. But that's not my perspective, right? I think if someone has a great marriage for 10 years and then they decide that it's maybe not the best thing to continue and they split, to me, that's not a failure. To me, that is a successful marriage for 10 years, right? And I think having this sort of perspective that we can always reinvent ourselves, and it's not a failure to reinvent yourself, right? I shifted from being an entrepreneur, like for now, right? From being a 2-time startup founder to being a product manager. I did not do that because I consider myself to be a failed entrepreneur. I do not consider myself to be a failed entrepreneur at all. Video Visit was quite a big social impact that we had there. But what I realized is that I really like being a product manager. And I really like that more than being an entrepreneur at this stage of my life. Now, might that look different 10 years from now? It might. But neither of these things is what I would consider a failure in and of itself. It's sort of a recalibration, finding a new passion, shifting. And I think being adaptable in life, adaptable and resilient, is the key to building a life that is successful by your own standards.